All right. This is one of my favorite types of events that we do as real producers. What I love about it is the conversations that are had. There are incredible moments that I would categorize as gold. In other words, a question is asked, and one of our panelists starts to share, and many of our panelists get vulnerable and they get honest and they start talking about real issues. They start talking about what the market looks like. They get really honest about what their perspective is. And so one of the things that I like to do is I like to sit and listen and basically take notes. I'm not gonna lie, you'll see me. I'm not on my phone, I'm not text messaging anybody. That's not what I'm doing. Something brilliant, something amazing, in some ways something life-changing has just been said that encourages me to do my job in a better way. And so that's one of the things I want to encourage you guys as we're a part of this group and we come together with the panels. We've got Jay, who's going to be leading us. He's going to be our MC. I'm going to be handing the mic over to him in a second. We do have all of our panelists. So do me a favor, put your hands together for our wonderful moderator, Jay. Jay, do it.
Thank you. This year, I thought that we would introduce everyone starting with the fewest number of Instagram followers, and I will take the cake for that, coming in at 979. My name is Jay Maggio. I'm a real estate broker with That Properties. This is my 15th year. That makes me feel really old and tired. And next up, we have, with double what I have, Elaine Pagels with Berkshire Home Services. Elaine, why don't you tell us, introduce yourself. And I'm just going to ask everybody kind of like a little 2023 recap, the good, the bad, the ugly, for you and your business.
Wow, we've seen a lot of changes this year. Is this okay? Yep. All right.
Yeah, I'm not the tech guy.
A lot of changes this year, but I think we're all feeling pretty good about next year. There's been some conversation about some old, some buyer's agreements and so on that has been in place for years. So I think sometimes we can get nervous about some of the procedures that we have that are already in place.
That's great. That's great. Not to be outdone, we've got Mike LaFido, luxury specialist, coming in at 1,900 Instagram followers. I took the higher of your two profiles just to, give
you rounded up.
I rounded up.
Thank you.
I wasn't sure which was the main one.
So yeah, obviously NAR, what's going on with buyer's agency agreement, confidence levels for us fellow real estate agents. We know that numbers are down, so it can be discouraging. I was just at an event in Glen Ellen with some agents there, but I think sometimes we overcomplicate things, and life is what drives real estate, right? Somebody needs a place to live. Somebody's getting married. Somebody's relocating. Somebody's getting a job promotion. Unfortunately, people die and get divorced, and that's what drives our business. And so I'm a big believer is what you focus on expands, and it doesn't matter who the president is, and sure, interest rates and all that stuff can create momentum or a headwind, but just keep pounding the pavement. And don't surround yourself with negative Nicks and negative Nancys, because you'll be one of them.
That's true. So we should start following ambulances and morticians and divorce attorneys. I got to implement that into my business. Next, Sheena Baker with 10,000 Instagram followers. Not a single one paid for, I'm sure.
Nope. I really don't know who follows me. It's a lot of agents, so people ask that all the time. So I'm Sheena Baker. My team is here. Shout out to my team, Sheena Baker Group. So the recap of last year, the good, the bad, we saw a dip in our numbers last year for sure, and we believe it's because of the interest rates, of course, like everyone else is feeling. It's not enough inventory. We're still feeling that today, but I'm optimistic that 2024 we're going to turn around. So I'm with you. Be positive. Focus on the positivity. We're making a lot of phone calls to our past clients. We have a large pipeline of people that are ready. I think they all have their different reasons, and just stay in front of them right now.
That's great. And lastly, we've got Lauren Walz and Dawn McKenna from the Dawn McKenna Group with 36.8 thousand Instagram followers, including myself.
Do you want to go first? No. Oh, great. Okay, I'm just warning you guys. I didn't get the memo on what we were talking about today, so you're going to get raw DMG here, because usually I always say luck favors the prepared. Be prepared. I am not prepared. What was the question? Oh, the good, bad, and ugly about 2023. Okay, I would say we were very, very blessed because in 2017, I hedged. I hedged the group, I grew a brand, I grew a big company, and I hedged to places that are completely opposite of where their source is. So I did Naples, Florida. I did New Buffalo, Michigan. I did Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. I did the city of Chicago. I did the North Shore. And this year we hedged once again and filled the pie with a mountain town called Park City. And so I think last year was a real tipping point for people. And I think if you don't know your competitive advantage against me or Mike or Sheena or Elaine or anybody else, you need to figure that out. And I think if we right now did a rapid fire of what's your competitive advantage, a lot of people would be like, because you don't believe in what you're doing. You need to get back and say, why am I the best person for this job? Not why I'm better than him, just what makes me able to best provide the services that these people are paying for. And we'll talk about NIR later, but like I am not worried about commission at all. I do not discount. In fact, it may go up because at the end of the day, everybody is pulling back on funds. And that's what happened last year. And if you're pulling back on funds this year, you are going to be screwed. I'm just going to tell you right now. Last year, I spent the most money I have ever spent in my entire career on marketing, on people, on service, third-party providers to do a better job in 2024. So I would say get serious about your business ASAP or we will be out of business.
Lauren, you want to add anything?
Okay, I don't know how to follow that up. I am part of
Should have gone first.
Yeah, I should have. No. I never go first. So I am hyper-focused in the west suburbs, so I'm a piece of Dawn's business, but I probably don't feel the hedge. I'm more similar to you guys as far as what I've seen this past year. And I do think, kind of spinning off of what Dawn said, we were busier than ever, I think, this last year, which showed our clients that we weren't sitting down and dying. We were giving them confidence to buy or sell, which I think is important. We're the voice and we're the guide for them. So if we say now is not a good time, interest rates are high, or hang tight, I wouldn't do it, they're going to listen to us. I think it's important to stay positive and like keep pushing forward in the market because there's a tremendous amount of reasons why people should be moving now. So just remind them of that.
That's great. So I think one of the buzzwords that everyone said is inventory. And I kind of looked up a few stats, not that I needed to, but Hinsdale, 2.2 months of inventory. Naperville, 1.2 months. Downers Grove, 1.3. Aurora, 0.9. Wheaton, 0.9. And DuPage as a whole, 1.1 months supply. Anybody want to tell our audience what month supply of inventory means?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Keeping Current Matters, KCM. There's a Try KCM blog. They provide great data. And so when there's 3 months or less, 3.5, 4 months or less of inventory, we call that a seller's market. 5 or 6 months of inventory is kind of a balanced neutral market, and 7 months or more is what's called a buyer's market. And so you can dissect Dawn's market, Hinsdale, or I do a lot in Wheaton. And even within Wheaton, you said 0.9 months of inventory. I like to break it down even more, in the different price points. So for high-end and luxury, what's the supply and demand? For entry level, and so every market's a little bit different. But when explaining to your clients, I like to use simple analogies, right? Black Friday. Right, Best Buy puts a limited number of TVs on the market, and people pitch a tent, right, to sleep outside to get the TV. Limited supply drives up demand, and so right now there's a lot of negativity, rates, and everything else. So if you do have people on the fence, let them know. Same thing if we were having this panel in November. Should I keep the home on the market in the holidays or put it on? Well, do you want to be one of 10 on the market or one of 3? I like our chances at 1 of 3 versus 1 of 10. So again, educating, having grasp, people love visuals. So I literally was on an appointment yesterday and broke down by price point. Last year home sales were down 118%, single family homes according to MRED. over the year before. So again, really limited supply drives up demand for buyers. So, Dawn mentioned invest in your business. And that's really important when others are pulling back to invest. Now, you might say, well, it's easy for her to invest. She makes a lot of money and she does great.
Must be nice.
Must be nice. No, she's got great, amazing work ethic, right? But for the rest of us, right, when you're looking to cut back, most people cut back on marketing, and be smart with it. Don't just throw, what do they say, spaghetti up against the wall and see what sticks. So be strategic about it. But when your competitors are cutting back, this is the time to come out of this. I mean, I've been licensed since 2000, and 2006, 7, and 8 market. There were a lot of people they became silent agents again, right? They pulled back on everything, and people forgot they were in real estate. So you got to put yourself out there.
Elaine, what do you? Oh,
Wait, can I say something before I forget? I'm
Yeah, I
old.
guess.
I'm the oldest one up here. So if something comes in my head and it goes out right away. So I think it's like excellent, actually. I think it's like a huge advantage because if you think about it, human beings have attention spans of gnats, right? When you want something, look at people at food. I mean, yesterday I was like, I had like potato chips all over my shirt and I was talking and I wanted those potato chips and what did you think? And we all have like manic behaviors and they have been at bay for almost an entire year. I'm telling you, they are going to come out in droves. It's already happening. We are feeling so kind of exhilarated from what happened last year. Just in January, more and more things are going to come on the market. By, I would say, third quarter, I think it's going to be balanced. We have an election year, you know that. But at the end of the day, it's helped to do a graph. If you saw, they're all worried, upset because they didn't get the 2.9% rate or the 3.2. Do a analogy. And if you don't know how to do it, ask your kid how to do it. But like it's math, simple math. And if you look at a property that was $1.2 million today and $1.2 million in 2021, they would have paid almost 30% more for that property in 2020 and 2021 than they're paying on a 7% mortgage today. You just need to break things down for them, keep calm, and carry on.
Elaine, what are you talking to your clients about when I ask you about inventory and the struggles, especially for buyers right now? to
Yeah,
find places?
I think it's a great time that our sellers come on the market, absolutely. We are starting to see multiple offer situations again. So, encourage your clients to come on the market and the buyers to come out. And we all know, no matter how high interest rates are, they're going to come down. Let them refi. And really, I believe in the long run, once the inventory pops, prices are going to go up. There's going to be a lot more buyers. They can get more money or spend less money for more of a house right now. So that's what we're encouraging our folks to do.
Sheena, do you think it's the inventory or the mortgage rates that is the bigger issue right now?
For my market, the interest rate, and only because it has brought down their buying power. So if they were approved for, $400,000 with the interest rates going up, they might be approved for less. And then what we're finding is what they wanted is probably even more than the $400,000. So they always want more than what they can, qualify for. So then when the interest rates went up, it took them down more. So we have to really dig deep and find something and explain, like you're saying, we're explaining to them the benefit. So yeah, this home may need repairs or fix her upper a little bit, but you're going to have equity. And what does equity mean? So we're doing a lot of educating on the other side. So if you bought this property now, you might put a little bit of work into it just to make it your own. But then if you go to sell it, this is how much you could make. And then that really changes people's minds. So it is a lot of conversations right now. You cannot hide, and you don't want them Googling the answers. So be the person that has the knowledge to kind of, guide them through why they should be buying right now.
Yeah, that's great. What about you, Lauren? I mean, I personally think it's inventory is the bigger issue. I think people have become a little desensitized to the higher rates, but
I agree. I feel like we're not talking as much about the interest rates, except for when people come and say, well, I'm buying. Aren't there a lot of people scared by these interest rates? And you have to educate them like Dawn always does. You have $4.5 million of cash. We have 10 of you. They all think their cash is greener than the next guy, and it's important for them to know that they're no different than all the other buyers out there, and a lot of buyers are still out there. So I would definitely say inventory is the bigger issue in our market specifically. I think digging in for inventory and then managing their expectations for what the inventory is at their price point is way bigger talking point than interest rates right now for us.
You know, another issue, talking about inventory, is I'm pretty sure most of you have potential sellers that you don't even know about right now that would consider selling, but they're looking online and they're not seeing anything they want to buy, whether they're downsizing, that type of thing. So, you know, you should be creative and think outside the box. And, you know, I call it the reverse contingency, but just like you have a house to sell contingency, I'll sell my house, but I got to buy a house first. Thinking outside the box is a way to get some of your sellers off the table. And so naturally an objection might be, well, what if the buyer does the inspection, we go through all this, and after 30, 45 days, they can't find something? Well, maybe they'll extend it. Maybe they'll give you another 15 or 30 days. Well, what about the cost incurred through home inspection? Well, the seller could pay for that. That'd be part of the deal. And so now that's how you get buyers to come out of the woodwork. So just thinking outside the box, being able to articulate it. And, you know, that's it. Last year, Dawn and I had a deal together. We actually put it together on Christmas Eve. It was in Oak Brook, and the closing was June 15th. But she was transparent. She said, my people want to finish out the school year. And so right now, buyers don't have a lot of leverage. So if you are creative, you might get more deals to the table and you might get more listings because of it.
Can I say something?
You may.
You know, what's really worked for me, and I think slowly but surely people are realizing this, we're getting a ton of referrals from all over the United States for Florida. So we have so much deal flow there. So a lot of my clients, I'm putting into rentals and getting them places in Florida for obvious reasons, okay? Because I'm 55, so a lot of my customers are downsizing. Their kids are older, and so that's kind of the relief and the choice that I'm giving them. And then Lauren's getting her investors to buy properties between 800 and $1 million too, that can rent out between, you know, 7,000 and 8,500 a month. That's like an 11% cash flow positive. So they're going in those rentals before they even hit the market and then buying stuff in Naples. So you just have to be a little bit more creative. And if you guys, you're like, well, Dawn, I don't know what's in Naples. Call me. Call us. We're going to give you a 25 to 30%. I mean, we just did a 50-50 on someone. It was an $18 million deal. But I'm just saying, like, you guys have a lot of resources. We should be using each other to capitalize. We can capitalize together on all of our networks.
So if you sell my mom's place in Naples, 50-50. We heard it here.
How much is it?
It's over $1 million.
Okay, fine.
There you go. Everyone heard that. Trisha, write it down. I mean, you guys have brought up some interesting things, and it kind of segues into like what we're already starting to see, multiple offers. Tell me some of like the most interesting things that you've, you know, talk about flexibility and maybe some things. I mean, the thing for me is, especially with like people that are buying their first place, and a lot of times it's at higher price points now than when I first was in the business, but having to educate them on appraisal waivers and as is and rent backs and stuff. So if you guys want to just kind of share some of the stuff that you guys have seen, or maybe some stuff that you're doing outside of the norm.
One thing that I think changed with multiple offers recently as opposed to before, when the lenders were totally bogged down, they weren't able to underwrite the loans as quickly as they can now. So one big difference, in addition to appraisal waivers and free rent back and all the things, I'm seeing a full clear to close like within 10 days of an accepted contract. That's new. I think it's super important to work with a lender that you worked closely with, because that's making or breaking a lot of these deals. If your clients can't pay cash for it, but they can be clear to close still within the attorney review period, it's putting you in a much stronger position than you would have been before. That was impossible for a lot of the lenders when there were so many loans being underwritten, but now it seems possible for a lot of these people.
That's interesting. Sheena?
So we kind of was ahead of that curve. So we only work with buyers that are completely underwritten before we take you out to see one home. So in our market, that's what has helped us become so good at this on the buyer's end, because you are absolutely right. If it's the multiple offers, that is what we have seen when in the multiple offers. So if they're completely underwritten, they can close over, you know, other folks that are also financing. That has been working for us well. The rent backs, I find myself this last couple of months explaining rent backs to agents on the listing side. They don't understand it a lot because, and I mean, I've been around for now, this is my 18th year, so it's older to us, but some agents never had to do that. So they're not sure how to make this work for the seller, and just a lot of educating and making this creative so that my buyer actually gets the property. And we've had to spell it out in so much detail. So, but I'm happy to do that so that everybody, like you said, we're all resources for each other. If I'm working for the buyer, why am I not helping the seller's agent understand this? It might be something you've never done, but we're not here to make you belittle you or make you feel down. I'm just going to tell you how to do this. If we need to have a conversation several times, we can, and to make this deal work.
Hi. And that brings me back to the point where we're all talking about good collaboration with each other. We're still representing our clients well, but when we have knowledge and educating another agent respectfully can put the deal together, and we've got happy buyers and happy sellers. Well, one of the things I started to see is more and more people are needing to rent short-term while they're in between houses. So we've been placing people. There's a few nice places in the western suburbs by Holiday Properties. Also, for the first time in the 20-some years I've been doing this, we're starting to see sellers and their attorneys agree to let the buyers store their furniture there, because when they can't close and move in on the same day, they have nowhere to put their things, and they don't want to put it in an icky storage place. So that's a new thing. I remember in the past, attorneys always hated that scenario. And the other piece of information or advice I would say is, back to Lauren's comment about work with a lender that you can count on. I really appreciate the lenders that will call the other realtor on the other side to explain that that lender will be all over this file from today until the close. And it has helped tremendously.
Yeah. Anybody else? Multiple offers?
I just think that you mentioned the collaboration is key. There's combative negotiating, and there's some agents that are combative, but you definitely want to get a deal together while still having your client's best interest in mind. But collaborate versus combative is important. But yeah, multiple offer situation, it's good. Lenders, I just had one on a entry-level property in Warrenville, and the lender called us right away on a Saturday and just said, hey, I'm working on this file. They're not just pre-approved, but pre-underwritten, and it's a way to differentiate. So who you work with matters. I think Dawn said that. Your team, your stager. My stager's in the house. Margaret somewhere. Margaret Gear, where are you at? Okay. So who you work with matters, and so surrounding yourself with a powerful team, but collaborating. I think that's one good thing that came about of COVID is I think real estate agents now, no matter who you're with, there's not as much my brand's better than your brand. There's a lot more collaboration, which is good.
Still too many agents, but yeah, I agree. I mean, is anyone seeing appraisal issues? Because when I explain some of the price points, Dawn, that you're frequenting, but I think I haven't had an appraisal issue in years.
I had two this summer in Wheaton, like a $875,000 and a $500,000 tear down, and you meet the appraiser there, you educate, you try to influence in a nice, ethical way. But at the end of the day, the appraisal industry is older. It's a lot of men, a lot of old men in the industry, and that's the truth. And they're underpaid. and they're micromanaged, and so it's an industry that we're going to see some struggles. Sure. With appraisals.
I say my strategy with an appraisal is kind of like you've got the answer and you just have to show your work. So the only thing I do is try to make them feel really good about having a Mickey Mouse tattoo and showing up in like a Dodge Caravan from 1985. So just be really nice and complimentary to them, and it always works. Maybe that's why I'm not having an appraisal issues.
I can't with him. He probably shows up with a 6-pack and a pizza.
I've never.
I've done that. I did that in Downers Grove on Lee Avenue, whatever. I did that. I actually did do that with the pizza
and booze?
And the booze. Yes.
Did
you have that?
Did it
I
appraise?
brought the buyer? No, but they gave more money. They gave more money.
You just got to listen to him. I had a guy show me his open heart surgery tattoo.
Good Lord.
He had like Mickey Mouse stickers on his car. I mean, and it appraised.
I think what we're doing is in that, 3.5 and over category in the North Shore, in the city, and in the western suburbs. What we've been doing is managing expectations. Going, during the listing presentation, we'll say, hey, this is the data. These are the metrics. Everybody's doing this. Everyone's getting a loan. What you guys should know is in the United States right now, more wealthy people are taking debt on. And you would think that that's counterintuitive because it's so expensive. But with an election year, and we won't even get into politics, but let's just argue either way, people are concerned. And so cash is king. So everybody's getting an appraisal. It's very hard to get somebody to just forego an appraisal at the upper bracket. So we're talking about that to our buyers. We're talking about that to our sellers. And we have such access to deal flow because of I've been in the industry for so long. So a lot of my clients will call and say, okay, I'll sell if you get me this, or I don't want to deal with somebody else, or just get it done. And so we have 2 coming up that you guys will see. One will be probably at around 5.2, and the other one will be at about 4,750. And it was mental gymnastics to get that done on both parts. We had to include furniture and then put that on a separate bill because you can't include furniture, for those that you don't know that, in a loan. So it was easier when it was cash deals. So I just think that managing people's expectations up front, saying, this, we want to outperform the market too, but this might be an appraisal issue for both sides, then they know. Then going into it, this is nothing new.
I mean, don't you feel at certain price points, though, that buyers should just have to waive their appraisal? Because I've taken that on some higher price listings where I'm like, we're not going to accept appraisal.
I just think at this point, would you buy a house? What are you talking about? I was acting as your realtor for a while, for a hot second. You would never buy a house and be like, I don't care if it doesn't appraise up.
As a listing agent, let's say you've got a $3.5 million listing, and they're getting financing. Would you suggest to your client, the seller, that we tell them, look, we'll accept this financed offer, but they're going to have to waive appraisal?
Yeah, but you can.
I think it depends on how much activity, right? So if you're not getting any showings, you're not getting much activity, you're going to be more flexible. If it's a hot new listing, you're going to be less flexible.
Yeah. Yeah, what I was just thinking is what you said in the office the other day. Dawn's like, I'll sell my house for this dollar amount, and I'm not messing around with an appraisal.
That's
and
what
I
I'm
was
talking
like,
about.
okay, well, then you may not sell your house. But a lot of the sellers don't care if they don't sell their house. So it goes back to, it's still a seller's market. So if you really want this house, come to the table with more cash. And if not, the deal might not come together, and the seller doesn't care.
These are for all off-market properties.
Yeah.
Most of the deal flow at the upper bracket is all off-market.
And I think with a multiple offer at a lower price point, the buyers know that there's someone standing behind them in line that's willing to bring more cash to the table or waive the appraisal. So again, it falls back into the leverage sways more in the seller's hands.
That's great. Thank you. Everybody's favorite topic now. Let's talk about the NAR lawsuit and commissions. I mean, just real quick show of hands. Does anyone actually think this changes anything? If you do think this changes anything, raise your hand. Oh, interesting. Conversations.
I mean, I was just with Patty Murray yesterday in Glen Ellen, and she's got a new listing coming on in Wheaton, and they're offering 0 co-op. So there's going to be a bunch of agents in this room
Guess she's not gonna sell
don't
that.
have buyer's agency agreements and don't have that conversation. And I think statistically speaking, especially rolling out, that might sell with no co-op, and that buyer's agent might not get paid because they're not comfortable having that conversation. So I do think it will change things, not for agents that show value, but I do think it will change things.
I think we're all up here saying the same thing in whispers. It's changing the conversations. So if you are not understanding how to explain a buyer's agency agreement, how we get paid, those agents are going to struggle with receiving compensation and your worth, sharing your worth. So every buyer, it's for our office's standard. They have to sign that buyer's agency agreement, and so we're now used to having the conversations up front and how we get paid. So but I'm not seeing a ton on our side yet with the zero compensation. So I'm not going to worry about it until I have to worry about it. But I think if you keep showing your value and you explain, I did have one seller who was very young in her 20s that called. She may want to sell, and she's like, well, I read on Google that I don't have to pay, compensation, and explaining to her what that actually means. And when I was working with you to buy, that meant I would not receive pay for all the work that I did to get you into this home. Are you okay with that? And is that what you want to portray to the market? And she's like, I didn't think about it like that. So it's just really explaining it. And sometimes you have to dumb it down to explain it because they're reading so much online. But just make it simple, and your sellers, I think a lot of them will understand.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's going to change a lot for the agents that already have procedures in place and bring to the table a lot of value to our clients, whether it's a buyer or seller side. So I don't think it's going to change a lot. The one thing I do agree with, too, is that the conversation is changing. If nothing else, it's going to help us all raise the bar in the industry and just tighten up our procedures. And the procedures are in place for everyone's protection.
No, I agree. Dawn?
Dawn has something
You want
to
to
say.
take?
No, I mean, you guys do a model on how many houses sell for sale by owner. It's a mic drop. Very little. And the ones that do sell, 99% of the time, they sold under value. So I think it's a real eminent problem. And I think brokerage owners and people like management have a lot to work through with their agents. But I think some of the smartest people in the room were like the Ryan Schneiders of the world. I'm not just saying that because he's obviously the CEO of Anywhere, which is the holding company of my brand. But I just think that there's a lot of talk. And the ones you'll get the most flack from are not people that don't know what they don't know. You're going to get the questions from investment bankers and private equity guys. Those guys are going to be like, and then all you have to do is show them a model of, these are the 5 houses that I know of that were for sale by owner. These are what they got. These are what they could have got. Your choice.
Now with like NAR kind of coming under a lot of flack, does anyone here follow, some of the talk about whether or not the National Association of Realtors is going to exist, if there's going to be a new group? I mean, anyone have any thoughts on that? Mauricio, who's going through a bad divorce on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, is trying to start his own association. So
That came up 2 weeks ago at Inman, New York. I was out there, and it's real easy. I mean, I'm frustrated. I think they fell asleep at the wheel. I mean, we pay a lot of money, but you're seeing big. I think Keller Williams now does not make it a requirement to be a member of NAR. So I definitely think you're going to see some changes. But the reality is, I'm making up the statistic, but I would say probably 80% of consumers don't know the difference between a licensed real estate agent and a realtor. They don't. And so the message hasn't been conveyed properly, and so it's a hot mess there. That's all I can say.
Just to rebound off of that, another point that we can all consider is that it's up to us to educate our clients on our value. So bringing that up about, different points of what the value proposition, I think this is part of it, and we're realtors, and what that means.
Lauren, I know you got a lot of deep thoughts on NAR.
I know. Everyone's looking at me for the answer on this. I do think that, again, it's more of an internal conversation. A lot of the consumers have no idea what we're even talking about. Like, it's a talking point for all of us. And again, it's more the education within and the collaboration of how we're communicating it. I think more than this being an external problem or noise for consumers, they have plenty of other things to talk to us about.
I would say, too, New York City doesn't have an MLS, for those of you don't know that. They go with Street Easy. That's why brokers are super, super, super imperative there. You cannot find a place without a broker. Even the rental side, the lessor doesn't pay the renter. They pay them in addition to the lessee has to pay sometimes 10 to 15% of the entire amount for a year or two. So I think it's going to be actually a good thing. But I'm very positive. I can spin this into such a great angle. I actually think it's going to be a good thing, because for someone like me who has been doing this for 21 years, has a huge team, and we have tons of deal flow, like, they're never going to be able to take that away. That's where I'm saying for you that are starting, focus on that. Like all these people are like, oh, I don't like listings. I want to be a buyer's agent. Yeah, me too, because there's no pressure. The biggest thing to know is if you don't have listings, you will never, ever, ever have a full funnel. Listings, and then you capitalize on those listings, then you get the buyers. That is how, you talk about manifesting business. You will never be a big, successful agent for years and years and years to come without listings.
Agreed. All right, moving on from such a heavy topic. AI is another buzzword in this world these days. I'm kind of sick of it, but anybody up here using AI? Yeah, let's hear it. I don't really want to talk.
Yeah, we use it. I think it's not going to replace realtors. I think people were all nervous about it when it first came out, but a lot of times it just helps with a lot of our descriptions and we've been doing this so long, you say the same thing all over again. So we may just use it for wording. We may use it for guides, like buyers, sellers guides. We just use it to kind of help in what we want to say. And for us, that's what we're using it for. We're not using it to replace us talking and doing all that kind of stuff. We haven't gotten that deep, but a lot of times it'll speed up what you think you're trying to say. Just put it in ChatGPT and it'll give you some great things. Change it to the way you would say it, and we kind of can keep moving. I just think it's helping us to move faster in that sense, but I'm not using it any other way.
So there's a gentleman out of Colorado that has a certification that I've partnered up with, and if you just, I make $0 of what I'm about to tell you, but if you're interested in figuring out how you can leverage AI, not just about property descriptions, but much more, there's a bunch of bullet points on how you can leverage AI. It's kind of a cheat sheet. It's just go to Luxe, Luxe, AI certification.com, and you can do your own research there. But it's much more than just property descriptions, right? So Luxe AI certification, look at the bullet points, and then you guys do your own research. But there's a lot of great things you can do from much more than just what most people know, property descriptions.
So my 2 cents about AI is that AI cannot replace the human and the human contact and what we understand about our clients. And it cannot replace savvy negotiations, nor can it replace integrity and ethics within the marketplace. So that's where I sit with it.
AI for me was, when I first got started, I just look at Dawn's property descriptions, and I'd have this Aurora townhome, and they're like, architecturally significant woodwork. Is it really that nice? And I just mince your words out. No joke. I mean, I just these are amazing.
You're crazy. I was just going to reiterate what everyone else is saying. I think it's helpful. Sometimes we get busy doing the work that we're doing that we lose sight of some of the creative aspects of our job. So it's a helpful place to go to be a little more efficient, to get creative ideas to then run with. It's almost like a brainstorming session for me.
I don't know how many of you guys know this, but I developed an app 2 years ago for my team to create another competitive advantage that we have and how to communicate internally with the 20 of us or 19 of us that are selling. And it kind of exploded. And I don't know how many people here have Luxury Presence as their web developer. Anybody? Okay, so I was the first person to do that in the Midwest. I love Multi Kramer, and I showed it to him, and he bought it. And what we're going to do with it is there's definitely a huge AI component. It's called Copilot, and if you haven't signed up to be a beta tester, you should do it. It's 12,000 people in line for it, but it's a big deal. And most of the people that are signed up are on each coast, like New York, California. But basically what I wanted was, we're running around like crazy. I don't have a computer. I have an assistant. I've always had an assistant, but I don't have a computer, so I'm on the phone a lot. And so when I meet someone Jay Maggio, say I meet him at an open house, or I meet him here, and he's like, I really would like a place in Florida, blah, 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 blah. I listen to what he says, and then I can press a button and just talk into it and say, Jay Maggio lives on North Washington, has 4 kids, wife, one of his kids is named Jasper, parents live in Naples, okay? And the phone number, and it immediately goes into the CRM. These are things that are super, you're talking about efficiency, is knowing that's in there, then everybody else that's seeing, oh, Jay Maggio's looking in Naples, he's got 4 kids, he lives on Washington, maybe he would sell. There's a lot of more of a components than just AI for like descriptions. Like AI is predictive data analytics of what they would buy now, what they will buy in the future. These are all little components that can help you become better at your job and more efficient. So look for that. But I think AI is like the bomb.
Do you have a coupon code for everyone here today?
Ah, Jesus. I don't know. Ask Multi Kramer. Just say,
Is he
Dawn
here?
was
Who's
speaking.
Multi Kramer?
Multi Kramer
is that his
is the
name?
founder of, he's a Stanford genius, and he founded Luxury Presence. And that's who developed my website.
His first name is Multi?
Multi. He's
Oh.
German.
I don't know. I've never heard that name before. You were
Multi
picking on
Kramer.
Jasper. Jeez, it's a family name. After my dead dad. Jeez. All right, so election year, everyone knows this. It's going to be quite an election year, and I think anyone that's been doing this for 10 or more years knows that typically election years taper off and get really slow Q3 into Q4 and can sometimes then rip in December of the year. We'll kind of roll this into market predictions and just thoughts on what the election will do. I mean, obviously, this is not a political conversation, but just overall thoughts on what this year is going to look like. Anyone? You guys are going to have to talk. We got like 15 minutes to fill, and my topic list is running low.
Okay, I'll kick it off to say I think that the year started off tremendously well, and what we always say is the phone calls we're getting today is pretty indicative of the market that we're seeing for the next 3 to 6 months. I think what we're hearing is coming to fruition 3 to 6 months from now, and it's insane, if I would say that. So I do think that we're ramping up. It's really hard to say what's going to happen after the election. I do think that everyone is antsy for change, and change is always good for real estate. No matter what happens, I think people are hanging on to hope right now that interest rates are moving in the right direction, and I think that there's some comfort in change right now. So I think the hope is heading in the right direction, and I do think, again, based on the phone calls that we're getting today, at least the first half of the year is going to be gangbusters.
No. Do you want to tell everyone who you're voting for? Just kidding.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Western Springs councilman.
Don't. You know what? It's funny. I think you guys are going to see. I will tell you that as a top agent, you kind of know when like the wave is coming, and we were here, and now we're kind of on the upswing. And I know that because of the calls we're getting and the presentations that we're doing. Everybody that's calling isn't just like, what do you think my house is worth? It's, when do you think the right time to sell is? So now is the right time to sell. Those that will be on in third quarter, they need to sell. They don't want to sell. So those will be unbelievable opportunities, I think. But I actually think that people have been cooped up for a long, long time. And like I said before, I think people are just want to get on with their lives. And I think we could do a much better job on sharing what the heck is really important in this world of real estate to our sellers. Every single person I've talked to since January 2nd is listing their house. 9 out of 10 of them were like me. They don't need the money, but they kind of want to sell. What do you think? And now they're coming on. And a couple of them already sold. They didn't even have to come on because I called people like you and said, hey, I've got clients I'm showing. This is another thing I was thinking that has worked really well for us, and I think we're going to see more of this, is like when I get a listing, I had a $5.5 million listing, and I said, hey, I'm going to show my clients from 9 to 12. Do you want to bring your clients through? And I called a couple people that I know have clients in this range. It creates competitive tension. That's a good thing for pricing. It drives the price up. It makes the deal cleaner, and they're all excited. I think we just have to do a better job of creating urgency in our market. We hold that card.
One thing about that, I think that there needs to be some hope in the market for sellers too, that there's options of where to go when you sell. So when you're maybe giving your sellers an opportunity to come into some of these off-market properties, even if they're not buying that house specifically, they're getting a little bit more hope that there's more opportunity out there, which there are more opportunities that maybe they just haven't seen. So it's been mutually beneficial.
Yeah, we had 2 people sell, $1.5 million homes, and they're renting 4,500 a month townhouses, right? So, but Dawn, you made a good point. Staying positive, getting yourself out there, understanding the data, right? So going back to 1980, home prices across the country have appreciated by 4.9%. So if you can articulate to a $500,000 buyer the cost of waiting 2 or 3 years, you can always refinance in 6 months, 9 months, getting people off the fence. So you don't have to have these statistics memorized, but know where to go to get them, right? Title companies, lenders, MRED, try KCM, just having the resources available. Don't worry about memorizing stuff. I just looked at it yesterday. That's how I was able to rattle off that number. But just having those resources so you know where to go. But, election year, who knows what's going to happen, but just like Dawn says, keep pounding the pavement and good things will happen.
You can't escape this question. So might as well go for it.
Well, I'm still going to go back to the value that we
Market
all bring to our
predictions.
clients. And I think I agree with everyone. Speak up, call your buyers, call your sellers. We bring value, and AI isn't going to replace us. Cheers on that one.
Sheena?
Sheena, you want to say something?
What I hope for election year, I hope that the interest rates go down, and we see that. And I think that I have some clients that are waiting on that. They think that election year means interest rates go down. So that doesn't necessarily happen. So we really don't know. We just keep business as usual. I don't really care that it's election year or not. It's business as usual. People always have to buy or sell real estate. So that has nothing to do with how we get up and move and operate every single day.
All right, I like this segment. We do this every year. Pet peeves. Anybody got any new pet peeves from 2023 with such a competitive market that you'd like to share? No, they could be appropriate. You just whisper them, and I'll just
My pet
sling 'em
peeve,
out.
I can tell you, is always if you do not understand how to use Sentry locks. So that is my pet peeve.
When was the last time you opened a lockbox?
I opened a lockbox about 2 weeks ago.
Was it turkey?
Yes, and I called my assistant. I'm like, wait. She's like, Dawn, you just point the phone. I'm like, wait. So I'll don't worry. I'll be prepared.
Okay.
One pet. Come on, somebody else.
Agents that have been set up for an appointment for days, and when they're standing there in the ice cold, wanting a one-day code. Like, prepare. And it also tells me how they prepare in their own business.
If you don't own a Sentry card, which no one actually uses, you shouldn't even be allowed to sell real estate. I've said this last year. If you need a one-day code, just hang up your license. Seriously.
Big pet peeve for mine is lack of feedback on showings, right? So be empathetic. We bought and sold 3 years ago, and it was great for me as an agent because we had 2 COVID puppies. We had to get them up and get the house all ready, and you have no shows, and it's a good reminder that these sellers are anxious. They want to hear feedback, even if it's not detailed. So don't be that agent when you show a home that just fills out showing time, not interested, right? Give as much information. We're in this together, right? So if I'm showing one of Dawn's listings, I'm going to be tactful but honest, like, hey, it's too personalized, whatever it might be. I'm trying to make her job easier, and I was in Hinsdale before for years, and at some of their broker opens, they'd be real positive because they were hoping the agent didn't get it sold, so they'd get the next listing. So that don't operate that way, okay?
You got to be careful leaving too much blunt feedback, because I made the mistake of leaving feedback on a property that I thought my clients didn't ever want to see again. And I said, it would have been nice if the sellers had cleaned up before the showing. And then we went back for a second showing. Well, the sellers were there, and one of them was a military guy, and they were like stalking my license plate when I left. So I had a little bit of, so I'm kind of like very borderline on being brutally honest in feedback.
Be tactful.
Tactful is not one of my strengths, obviously.
I'm trying to think of one. I feel like
Come
we've
on, you've
covered
got it.
it's all the same ones from last year. I'm trying to think of one.
Here's the other one, fake pre-approvals in these upper price points. I'm sure Dawn sees it. So doing a little due diligence, making some calls before you schedule a showing, even though it clearly says pre-approvals required before scheduling a showing. And so every price point, every town's different. Maybe for Dawn, it's 3 million and above or 2 million, but just this past week, I got a showing request for a $9.5 million, and there were 2 pre-approval letters that were fake. I mean, so knowing what to look for, right? Doing your own due diligence ahead of time, the address, the email signature, is it professional? Can you find a digital footprint about the company? Things like that. So being careful, but at the end, that would be my suggestion, is leave it up to the sellers. The last thing Dawn or I want to do is say, no, we're not going to show it, and then my client buys the one down the street and they're telling Dawn's client, oh, we wanted to see yours, but Dawn wouldn't let us in, or Mike wouldn't let us in. So, educate your clients, be transparent, but buyer's agents, ask those tough questions so we're not the bad guy all the time.
I don't know if it's a pet peeve, but I want to take a poll. Like, when I first started, I don't even know if anybody knows this, but when I first started, I was like, God, like, I want to get my point across. Like, you're calling someone, usually it's never like at 11 o'clock on a Monday. It's like Saturday night, 8 o'clock at night, you're trying to do a deal, the other agent's at dinner, and blah, 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 blah. And they're not like engaged. Like, when I used to present my offers, I would ask to present to the agent and their seller. It was the best thing I ever did ever in my life, because there's so many bozos out there that and I didn't even know what I was doing, but I had sold my own property, so I knew like what I would have wanted as a seller. And you know how all the sellers, they say they don't care, but they do. They're like, what do they do for a living? How many kids do they have? Where are they coming from? How much did they like the house? I mean, what does the wife do? Does she work? Like, I just think sometimes it's nice, especially in the situations that you might find that I do this, where offers are being heard from 12 to 2 at this time at the home of the seller. And wouldn't it be great to be able to like talk about your competitive advantage or your pitch? Like, you would have to know what the hell you're talking about. You'd have to be polished, presented, and you'd have to be, like Shark Tank. Like, I did that for 2 straight years. I mean, obviously as you scale, that's harder to do, but I'm just saying it's worth it. So I guess my pet peeve is these buyers that come to my listings and present offers and they don't know anything about the buyer. It's very helpful to understand they need to get out of their place because of this, or they both work for the hospital and it's at Good Sam, or whatever it is. Just ask the questions. It's annoying.
It's almost like a tip. I like that. Anybody else that was my next sort of topic here, was we've got a lot of agents out here that are listening to our esteemed colleagues here, but any tips or hacks or things that we should be doing? And don't tell me like prospecting or
No. Well, when we send in an offer, we're very organized with the terms and so on, but we also create a letter that if that listing agent is comfortable, they can send it to their seller. To the seller, because we can't get in front of people. So that's the next step to make it somewhat personal but professional.
no pictures.
No pictures, no love letters, but still, it also shows your value on one side, that you're going to be an agent that's going to get the deal done. And a seller, if you're representing the buyer, a seller will pick up on that this agent is organized, and I think I'm going to choose this one instead of these 3 just because of presentation.
I think in some of our markets, what I'm going to see again, and I think that I'm going to start pushing more, is pre-inspections, pre-sale inspections. So if you're listing a property, to get your inspection ahead of time. We have a seller right now who keeps losing out on buyers because of home inspection. And she knew the issues because they were the issues when I sold the house, and she still wanted the house. But now it's like they're just so shocked that these buyers are canceling. So I think that some areas, if you're seeing the inventory, they're sitting on the market for a long time. They're coming back on the market constantly because of the repairs that are needed. It's having the conversation that maybe you guys should get a pre-sale home inspection, understand what's coming down the pipeline. If they're not going to fix anything, they're not, but at least they know ahead of time. I think market prior, well, the COVID market, everyone was waiving inspections, waiving everything. And now the buyers are not wanting to make all of these repairs and pay a higher interest rate. So I think educating the sellers a little bit more.
I'll piggyback on that. Going back to our conversation about appraisals, we often do the same thing to get ahead of the appraisal conversation where they have a pre-market appraisal so they know where the appraisal will most likely come in. Even if it's not what they want to see or hear, it's helpful then to manage the conversation after you get an offer. No one's surprised by it. So if you have a property that's maybe going to be the most in the neighborhood or they're pushing the price further than you feel comfortable, an appraisal before you set the price and before you start listing it is super helpful.
Getting back to your question, you guys are in the room, so commend you. Surround yourself with others, man. Success leaves clues. The other thing is if you lose a client, you don't get the listing. They buy with somebody else. You know, I call them boomerang opportunities. If you do a good job and they go with somebody else, end the relationship. Don't end the relationship, but end the conversation positively. Let them know you'll be there if they down the road or whatever. I've sold a lot of properties where for whatever reason they didn't hire me the first time around, but instead of telling them maybe how I wanted to, what I wanted to tell them, you stay positive, and you'll be surprised. You might get referrals from it, and you might actually get a client down the road.
Two things. Rentals and Supra. Has anybody ever used Supra? It's the warranty company. It's the no, Supra Celica. He's old. Never mind him. I use it on my daughter's house, and it's called Supra. No.
Super Home Warranty?
Super was the lockbox company.
Yeah, Super is like the predated Central.
It's called Super. I got to get my phone. It's Super or Supra. Look it up. And I'm on this. I'm part of this. My team is part of this like incubator function of a major real estate venture capital firm in the city. So we get to test out all these things, and I would highly recommend it. You know how like some of, I probably will get in trouble for this, but you know how like Aon or someone here, I don't know, don't get mad at me, but I'm just telling you, it's really nice to have a home warranty that's not just like, okay, here's $900, like they're never going to call, you're never going to get it. Like I called at 9 o'clock, my daughter was in Tokyo, this happened 2 days ago, her air condition or her heat was off, they got back to me within 1 hour and they said, we're going to be there by 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, hang on. And they were, and it was fixed, and it was $100. Like that, and this is like the fifth or sixth thing that's happened. So I would highly recommend like having something like that at your disposal that's actually not going to just be a box to check, but that actually will do what they say they're going to do. I would also say rentals. So Maddie McMahon, raise your hand. She's, are you my youngest team member? I think I am. She's
12.
Bomb. No, she's 23. She's 24.
Child labor laws.
No, she's 24. Let me just tell you this, okay? So I started the Dawn McKenna rental group. And what are we ranked in the United States?
Number 1.
There you go. And we are number 1 in the city amongst every agency in terms of the rentals. And what it's funny is because even when I was older, I was like, oh, rentals. It is the most massive pipeline. And I would say it is the single reason we have been so successful in the city because they grinded. They did 2,000 to 3,000 rentals a year, and now all those people buy, and then they become sellers. These girls are at like 100+ million in the city right now. So don't snub your nose at rentals because it is, talk about a pipeline, it's an amazing pipeline.
Before I open it up for Q&A here, I wanted to share, we're all part of this association. I found that, does everyone have Forewarn on their phone? Forewarn is the best party game to play by putting people's...
You signed a document that says you can only use it for business purposes.
Well, I'm always doing business. Listen, you put your friends' numbers in there and you find out they had like 5 misdemeanors in college. It is the best party game ever. So you're welcome for that tip. Anybody want to throw some questions out to our panelists? There's no waiver. I didn't sign. What waiver?
I think you have to sign something that says you're not going to like look up.
Tricia, you didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, see?
Found one guy, 16
found one of Dawn's clients had like 5 batteries, like an instant.
Oh my God.
Any questions? It's hard to see, so if you're in the back, just speak up very loudly. Going once. Going twice. Oh, there we go. There we go. What do you got?
What do you think the most important thing for young realtors to focus on this year?
The most important thing for young realtors to focus on in 2024.
Mentorship. Find your mentors. Surround yourself with your mentors, and become one when you're ready. And I doing a shout out to all of us in this room. Looking right at Mike, we've been in this business a long time. It's really important to mentor newer agents. Doesn't matter how old they are, because we come into this business at different times. Mentor each other. And again, seek out mentor. I would like to do a little shout out. We've got 2 great mentors in the room that have been in this business for years. One is my mother, Lucy. And Lucy Hill, please stand up. And Nikki Rishi. These 2 gals have been rocketed for, thank you. Nikki Rishi, she's back there too. Yeah. Talk about mentors, right? Their daughters and granddaughters have benefited from this, but that's my advice.
Can I jump on that topic? I do think it doesn't necessarily need to be a formal mentor too. I really tried to take a piece from every agent I met. When I was younger, I would go to the office, a little younger, but I was new. And just listen. Like if you can go shadow or listen or just watch what people are doing and absorb everything they're saying and doing and how they handle each situation, I think that is tremendously valuable. I say I benefit from just listening to Dawn every day. Obviously, she's different, but I did that my first year in real estate. I would go to the office every day and just listen to how people handled situations. And sometimes it was like, ooh, never gonna do that. That felt really weird. But oftentimes that's just as helpful as like positive ways to handle a situation.
I have 2 things. So industry involvement, if you know me, you know I'm involved in a lot. So I'm on the board of directors for Main Street. I'm on committees for NAR. I'm on the chamber and my local market. Get involved. If you're on like YPN or all these different networks that you have amongst your town, you will meet amazing agents, and you can then keep seeing them. And like you said, we may not be a formal mentor, but if you ask us a question, we keep seeing you like, I want to help you. I want to see you do well. You can ask me anything. It's the random DMs that we get from someone we never met. And so if you're coming out, you're doing the right thing, you're being here, you're learning, 9 times out of 10, someone will answer your question. We will pick up the phone. We'll help you through a deal, and it's something that you've never experienced before. And then for newer agents that are like younger, I would say build relationships. I think that things have changed so much during COVID, and everybody's on their phones and then stuck in the house. People forgot how to build relationships. Our business thrives off of all the relationships and personal connections we have with people. So if you're trying to get clients, you need to get outside. Go meet people, talk to people, not just behind the internet.
Ditto to everything they said. I think your broker is important for mentorship and training within the office. You can't be shy. My nephew just graduated college. He's selling Cadillacs at Naperville Cadillac, and so I'm coaching him up, letting people know what you do for a living. I say shy real estate agents have skinny kids. Nothing wrong with skinny kids, but you got to let people know what you do for a living. Okay.
I would say you get what you give. And what most people don't know is every single person on my team basically said they would work for free for 1 year just to learn, and there was nothing they wouldn't do. And I think a lot of times, obviously they're all doing quite well and are happy because I've had virtually no turnover. So heavy was the head that wore the crown. That was a big burden on me to make sure on a daily basis that I am the best version of myself, that I do work right with them and I'm running just as fast as they can. But I think a lot of people get into real estate and they have a little bit of an entitled attitude about like why my friend should have listed with me or my brother, or hey, can I mentor? at some of these levels, you're making $3,000-$5,000 an hour if you think about it. And so like you don't have the time to mentor. But the smart thing to do is get someone that you really think is great and say, listen, I will work for free. I will do all your open houses. I will manage this. I will get your listings up, whatever. You're going to learn, and you're going to ingratiate yourself in them. Every single one of these people, if they left, it's not because I would be so sad because I wasn't making a bunch of money. I'd be so sad because we're so heavily invested in each other that we're in it to win it together. And I think that's like the one thing that I would say about our industry that I think is really, really bad, and it's entitlement.
Amen. I got 4 kids that are skinny. I can't work for free. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for coming out here tonight, or this afternoon. I feel like that was pre-canned. It was weird. Thanks. Let's get a round of applause for the panelists.